Q3 2021 is here. Christmas is nearly here, most importantly, and we're going to discuss with you what happened in Q3 2021 and talk about the findings of the property market to see where the current state of play is. We're here with Carl Allsopp, my better half brother. Hey, wow, that's very American. So Carl talks about the property market 2021 Q3. What findings do you want to share?
Findings are Allsopp and Allsopp data. It's stuff we have found specifically on ground level. Full disclosure, I think our data is typically 3 to 4 months ahead of what gets published on the Dubai Land Department and other government reports, because most of these reports are transactions that have actually completed, whereas today the data we are sharing are actual transactions which have been agreed or contractually signed, so you won't see it 3-4 months down the line. What we have found, surprisingly this year, Dubai has had lots of positive news about property prices going up, huge demand. What we've actually found is Q3 this year, we've found a 12% decrease in the number of transactions. What do you put that down to? Because it's a bit of a surprise, really. Not a surprise when I read it, but because I've kind of foreseen this happening. But what do you put this down to?
Are you saying a 12% decrease in the quarter?
Quarter in number of transactions that have took place this quarter versus last.
I mean, you can see it, the way the roads are, the way the airports are. I think you've got to take into consideration a lot of people didn't fly in the summer and now flying in the later end of the summer, the June, July, August, September. So what I'm finding is that people are not in the country. So there's a couple of factors, obviously people's lives, that does happen. That's the travel and getting out of the country. But there's also the fact that I think a lot of people put the brakes on. I think we've talked so long about sellers demanding what they want. I'm going to call it first here. I don't think prices are going to go down. I don't. But I do think they're plateauing already. And I think we're going into a buyer's market. So we're seeing listings come on and they're not achieving the price that they want, which is why I think there is a decrease in property value at the moment, a decrease in transactions, listings going on, but not selling for the price they want.
The thing is with Q3, it actually encompasses people going away. So you're talking about July, August, September, people are going away, kids off school. So typically in the real estate property market here, things are naturally a little bit slower. But what I've actually found, just speaking to people on the ground, is that because there's been a huge surge of property price increases in many communities this year, it kind of made buyers take stock and probably take a little bit longer in making that decision. Whereas, kind of the start of this year, they were probably panicking into making decisions because prices went that quickly, didn't they?
Yeah, mental. Like I was just laughing then, thinking that all the people that we know that have bought houses and the money they've made is just wild. But that will stop at some point. I think we're at that point where buyers have got the brake on.
So marketplace, a decrease, also I've got figures here, of 25% from the second quarter this year to the third quarter this year. So that kind of coincides quite nicely with the first part of this year. We've seen huge surge of people, property prices going up, people buying, and again the brakes went on with people going away, and also obviously people taking stock of what's going on. Interestingly though, over the course of this year, in the last 12 months, we've seen a 14% increase, just as an average across the board of Dubai. Property price rises. In some communities, it may be as much as 30, 40, 50%.
I think that's leveled out though, because I think in 1 month, I think we're up at 18 or 20%. And obviously that would have decreased. So over the year, it's definitely gone up. And that's great for the sellers. But I think maybe you've probably seen it go up, and I think it's creeped back down a little bit. So I think that's definitely evened out.
Well, the average property price that we have sold this year is now at 2.9 million dirhams or 2.95 million dirhams. And that's actually seen an increase in property value in the last 12 months of 355,000 dirhams per property. So we're talking approximately 60, 70,000 pounds we've seen on average increase per property this year in value, which is great. And in terms of obviously the longer term view of what we see going into Q4, I said at the start of the year, if you perhaps look back at our earlier podcast, that we would see huge increases in Q2 or a rise in Q2. We would see some stabilization in Q3, which I think we've seen. And I think we'll see marginal property price gains in Q4, single digits, and I still hold true on that.
I think we've seen the pandemic boom, and I think that's now fizzled out, as in like that supercharged property market. I mean, at one point, our buyer registrations were double what they are now. And we were looking at what is going on?
Yeah.
And obviously now they've halved, but that halve is actually where we were pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So yes, we registered less buyers, but it's just that micro bubble of the pandemic has effectively ended.
Because the rest of the world is easing their own restrictions. So I think Australia today can now fly outside of Australia. If they're Australian, in flight outside of Australia. I think the point is that at the start of this year, so many countries were in such tight restrictions that Dubai was seen as that kind of living freely, because most of the world now is starting to open up and do business as normal, so to speak. Less people at high rates are coming into country.
Yeah.
So we're kind of seeing that settling down period a little bit.
Yeah.
Going into Q4, but speaking to people, people are still bullish about Dubai the next 2-3 years, about being very confident about this being a place to live and be. And
I don't think you can't be. I mean, it's like we said before, it's probably the leading destination in the world for F&B, for entertainment. Now the winter is the perfect month for the beach clubs and the beach live. It's going to be. There's a reason that a lot of Europeans. I mean, last stat we had, and I'm sure to say on here, if you look at our stats, top 3 nationalities for the first time ever, we've got 2 European nationalities at the top nationalities that have rented for us, which is British, then Indian, then French.
Yeah.
So we've never had French ever in our books. So we've never had 2 European countries, which shows that people have come here from lockdown and decided, actually, I'm going to move here on a long-term basis.
Dubai's regained its top spot at being the busiest airport in the world in October.
Wow.
So
any idea of the visitors?
No idea of the visitors, but the busiest airport, which also obviously Expo will play a part. Expo's now on, which is great. But yeah, very much people are seeing this place to be.
Okay, so sorry, I'll just jump in here. So stats that I would like to highlight: transactions for lettings up 6%. Off the back of that, the percentage average price for a lettings transaction is up 9%. How does that correlate when we're saying that buyer registrations are down, but tenancy and prices have gone up, and we're saying that property prices for sales are plateauing?
Well, look, there will always be a continual new flow of people coming to the country. It's a transient place, so the number of people looking to rent will always be far higher than people looking to buy because of that constant inflow of people. We're probably seeing now lots of people still looking to move into country.
Yeah.
More people looking to buy because to rent to buy to begin with, because that's typically your starting point.
Yeah, no one comes in and goes, I'm going to buy in Dubai. It's very rare. I've never been here before, but I'm going to buy a house here.
Exactly. So people, we're having people moving to country, settling routes. So we've seen a 9% average rental price increase in the last 12 months as an average, which equates to a property increase of 6,000 dirhams, give or take change per property.
Wow.
Obviously that can differentiate on different price bands, different areas, but as an average, that's what we found. And going into Q4, typically it's probably one of our busier times of the year as well, also because people looking to get a new homes in for the new year, but also having a big conversion now of people actually in rental properties. They're actually looking to buy because it's been more affordable than ever.
It's a massive part of business. People coming back to us and saying we want to get in the market. Top 3 communities for rentals. Do you know what they are? Let me tell you.
You can tell me.
Number 1, Dubai Marina.
Okay.
Number 2, surprisingly, with the low amount of units available, is Jumeirah Golf Estates.
Wow. Okay.
And number 3 is downtown Dubai.
Okay.
I think 2 of the major areas in Dubai that we work in are.
So most transactions happen for rentals in them areas.
Correct. That's through Allsopp and Allsopp.
And then if I look at the frequency of payments, so when people rent a property in Dubai, people still use checks, which is mad.
Yeah.
But anyway, quarter of people rent a property also can also pay with 1 check, which is still, in my opinion, quite high. Quarter of people, 25% of people pay with 2 checks, and then more than 50% of people pay with 3 checks or more.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for that direct debit system to come in here.
It's just technology though, isn't it?
Rentals.
I think there's no real DD technologies that exist that I know of in Dubai where you can put your card in and get it paid. So I think that's just Dubai in the tech industry and banking industry is still 10 years behind European countries to have implementation.
Hopefully that'll change. And then in terms of top communities for the sales, we've got Arabian Ranches, huge community, and always lots of truck transactions going there. Dubai Marina again, and then the Springs. So Springs, Emirates Living, all big expat communities in there. What was quite interesting also in the last quarter is mortgage transactions, the number of mortgages that took place was up 63%.
Yeah.
So obviously finance is more ready and available to get these days.
Yeah.
Mortgage team very, very, very busy. So I think we're seeing that transition of rental people moving into.
What an interesting transition for the company is, and momentum I see. I look at the transactions is that people get a mortgage with Allsopp and Allsopp Mortgage Services. They don't always buy through us, but what we find is we get a discounted rate with major banks like CBD and HSBC, and they give us discounted rates in the market. So they end up getting a mortgage for us and buying through someone else, which is
not to mention the amount of time they save just dealing with a mortgage broker, dealing with absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I know obviously there's no crystal balls in properties, and we'd all be, very, very rich, billionaires if there was. But what's your outlook in the next, certainly next quarter? What do you see? Because December, obviously, a large part of our business goes back to the UK for Christmas time.
I think the market's fragile. I've seen a report. Literally, I was just looking online a minute ago, and S&P have said the same thing. They see the Dubai property market as fragile, and I think the reason for that is that it's going to swing one way or the other. That's the honest truth. You're watching it for the last year, where prices have gone up so much, but I'm watching buyers pull the brakes, which I said earlier. And if them brakes are pulled too hard, it could pull sellers down to a need to sell it below what they wanted for it. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot depending on buyer sentiment. I mean, if I was to put my cards on the table, I think the market will continue to rise, but I think it will rise very, very marginally. I just couldn't imagine you as a seller, you as Carl Allsopp, saying, I need to sell it and I'm going to sell it below what I bought it for. I'm going to sell it what I bought it for if the market has increased a lot. So I don't think there's a lot of sellers that are, that motivated to sell at the moment.
Anecdotally, on the ground in our managers meet this morning, we are still finding people bidding on multiple properties.
Yeah.
So it is in certain communities and properties priced correctly, there is still very much demand, but we are still seeing, we've talked about it previously, the speculative seller. So we're still putting lots of new properties onto the market, but unfortunately, with sellers reading the news about property prices going up, naturally you're going to think, oh, well, I'm going to get more money for it. Again, the message to anyone looking to sell their property today is a lot of this data you see, whilst it's very accurate, it's out of date. Yeah. This data you're seeing from land department, anything else, it's 3 or 4 months at least out of date in terms of what happened. So what's happening today could be a very, very different picture. So in terms of your bullishness and your price, if you want to put a property in the market today, how quickly do you want to sell the property? If time is not of the essence, of course, try higher in the price. But if you want to sell within 2, 3, 4 weeks, that is all connected to the price you advertise your property for.
Yeah. So I mean, what's happening in the market at the moment for anyone that's watching and wants to understand the market is we're meeting owners, we're showing what they're selling for, they're demanding more, we're making a judgment call whether or not we think we can get it. If we say yes, we'll take it on, we'll take it on. But normally we're going back in a week, 10 days, 2 weeks and saying we've had no viewings, we've had an offer, the offer is way below what you're currently asking for it, we need to bring the price down. So that's the way the market is. We take them on, we advise them, and then we advise them why they're not getting the interest they want and have to bring the price down.
Would you say there's still a undersupply? Because what we have seen is a massive surge of number of new listings come to market, and some, to be quite honest, will probably never sell because of the unrealistic expectations.
I mean, you look at Darren in Jumeirah Golf Estates. I think, did he list 15 villas in Jumeirah Golf Estates? Is that what he said? 17?
4 or 5 weeks, yes.
4 or 5 weeks. And if you look at them, when we're having the conversation with him, he said the reality is the sellers want to sell, but they're either tenanted or they're way over asking price for where they need to be. So if you actually look at a unit you can get into, a unit that's market value, that's going to value up at the banks, and a unit that matches your criteria, you are undersupplied unless you head outside the main zones.
Circling back then, what's the crystal ball say for Lewis Allsopp's expert opinion going forward for Q4? What do you think the outlook looks like for us?
Well, for Coventry City, I'm hoping for a top 4. That's very important. I'm thinking keep the 5-3-2 formation, and I think we'll be floating around the automatics. That's very important to get there. And they're PUSB. Yeah. And for Allsopp and Allsopp as a company,
it's Dubai in the market. What do you think?
I think it's just going to carry on ticking over. That's the only way to explain it. I think buyers are registering. They're obviously showing intent but not committing, and sellers will continue to get a realization check, I think a reality check of my house isn't worth that, bring it down to the value, but it will keep ticking over.
I think at the moment we're in a moment where there is a bridge between sellers' expectations, what buyers are prepared to pay, and over time that gap needs to narrow. At the moment it's probably slightly too wide apart. Going into 2022, what would you like to see? Me personally speaking, I would like to see some form of introduction of aid or help for first-time buyers, whether that's increasing LTVs or help with reduction in government fees for buying a house. I think that would really encourage more people in country that are newer to country the last couple of years to buy. What would you like to see?
I mean, there's loads of initiatives. You look at initiatives at the moment, 100% business ownership's in. There's lots going on that help micro sections of the property market that have a knock-on effect in some way, shape or form. But if you really want to pump the property market up, again, knocking the LTV down or higher a little bit further, releasing, I mean, this is a big problem that a lot of people don't see. The property market's gone up 20% over the last year, yeah? That's fair? Okay. So that villa that was worth 4.2 million is now worth 5.1, hypothetically. It's no longer in the category of the LTV that you can get. So I think that if the property market has gone up, they need to increase the threshold from 5 million to maybe 7 million to show that the value of increment. Otherwise, it doesn't really work.
Yeah. All in all, I'm extremely, what I can foresee in the next quarter is I can see single-digit growth. I think that's sustainable. I think this 20% year on year is unsustainable. I think there'll be measures in next year where we'll start seeing a bit more normality to the buy property market. I think any help from the government in regards to getting people in country buying quicker to get them deep rooted a lot sooner will be very much welcome. Definitely. But all in all, I think we're in a good state.
We're in a healthy state. We're in a state of normality, which is what I want to see in the property market at the moment.
Good.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.